Pacquiao fight and the Errol Spence fight. One thing for sure, and two things for certain, Crawford does not need Bob Arum to get those fights. So Crawford is looking at it like, damn, why the hell do I need to stick with Bob Arum if I don't need Bob Arum to make those fights? You usually need a promoter to make the big fights happen. But if your promoter is doing anything and everything but to promote you by claiming that you're losing money on you, by making some ridiculous statements to the public, like he did to Floyd Mayweather when Floyd Mayweather tried to leave him, like he did to Mikey Garcia, so many different fighters, including Manny Pacquiao. He said Manny Pacquiao was washed, he was this and that, just because Pacquiao chose to leave, just like he did to Floyd and many more fighters. There's plenty of examples, but obviously Crawford leaving Bob Arum is definitely an option. Bob Arum said that I could give a shit about Crawford leaving and going elsewhere. Bob Arum said that he could give a shit about Crawford leaving him because he felt that Crawford betrayed him. A lot of people don't really understand what's going on. From what I understood, reading all his comments and all his statements, he feels like Crawford betrayed him by leaking the information to the public to when his contract is going to be expired. He felt like that was a betrayal because now Bob Arum realized, damn, since Al Haymon know the expired date, he could wait it out and then sign Crawford to make all the money in-house. So instead of splitting 50-50 split with Top Rank and doing a joint promotion, he could keep all the money in-house. And even more so, if Crawford does pull off the upset, he got Crawford on his stable. So all the belts stay with PBC instead of heading elsewhere. So all the mega fights could still happen on PBC instead of happening elsewhere, right? It's a business decision. So Bob Arum is more upset of the fact he felt like it was Crawford that leaked the information out. Crawford said, I never leaked anything out. I don't know how it got out to the public. I think Bob Arum said it was Bomac who leaked out the information. Now, I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that.
I don't know if it says on the contract you can't talk about when the contract going to be expired. I don't know if there's a term in the contract that prevent Crawford and his team from talking about when his contract is going to be expired, right? But it was Bob Arum who's coming out, giving out false information, claiming that he signed Crawford till after the time he retired. So I don't know if on the contract itself you could tell lies and claim that the contract is forever. You know what I'm saying? So Crawford had an interview with Brian Custer in which Brian Custer asked him, this is Bob Arum. He said that for Crawford to get the big fights, he might have to go to PBC. This is what Bob said on an interview. So Brian Custer used that portion of Bob interview and asked Crawford, would you do that? I mean, is that an option? Crawford said, absolutely. I mean, if Top Rank can't produce the big fights that I want, then I'm definitely looking elsewhere because it's all about business. Then Brian Custer followed up with a great question. When is your contract expired? He said, in a few months, less than a year. So he was like, oh, you considering to either stick with Top Rank if they give you the bag like they did to maybe Tyson Fury, or you considering leaving to PBC if Al Haymon chose to sign you because those where the big fights are, right? To make the legacy fights you want. He said, absolutely. It's all a business at the end of the day. So Bob Arum felt like that was a betrayal, but that's not a betrayal because it was Bob Arum that mistreated Crawford all these years, all this time. It was ESPN that kept putting Lomachenko as pound for pound number one. Kept erasing his losses during Crawford interviews. You know what I'm saying? Like the audacity. So they had Crawford all this time, the guy that's doing the most numbers on ESPN. But they rather promote Lomachenko more so. A guy that don't even speak English. We over here talking Bob Arum, talking about Crawford is not promotable. Crawford doesn't promote himself enough. Man, Lomachenko doesn't even speak English.
Higher numbers.
Yeah, and he does higher numbers with less promotion than Lomachenko. And just to prove it to you, because a lot of people on my last video, I'm going to put in the comment section below, they kept telling me, AKHi, the comparison you made was a little inaccurate because Canelo fights for DAZN and Canelo fought for HBO. Crawford fights for ESPN. So because of the subscription ratio, it's not as accurate. So, okay, if y'all don't like the Canelo comparison, I just wanted to compare him to who people say is the biggest name. So if this is what you guys want, all right, I'm gonna compare him to a guy that fight on ESPN that got more money, and he got signed for more money than Terence Crawford did, right? So let's talk about the comparison between Terence Crawford and Tyson Fury, two ESPN fighters, two top-ranked fighters, right? So if we talk about their purses, Crawford makes 3 to 4 million guaranteed per fight. Fury got paid against Wilder. He got 25 million plus. But we're not going to talk about that because that was a big fight. So let's talk about a fight on regular ESPN, which is Tom Schwartz. Tyson Fury got paid 12 million. I'm going to say it again. And for the people that didn't hear me the first time, for you guys to sink that in, Tyson Fury got paid 12 million. There were 4 documentaries done on Tyson Fury for that fight in particular. On the other hand, Crawford get paid 3 to 4 million. So Crawford, he pulls in the highest numbers on ESPN. He does 2.7 million viewership on ESPN. He did 2 million his last fight with zero to little promotion against Kell Brook. 2 million plus. He averaged 2 million plus against Kell Brook, and he only got paid 4 million for that fight. But mind you, Tyson Fury got paid 12 million against Tom Schwartz, and with heavy promotion, he only did 1 million. So one man get paid 12 million. He does 1 million viewership. The other man does 2 to 3 million while getting paid 3 to 4 million dollars. So, I mean, there's no comparison. Who is Bob Arum losing money on? And just to give you guys ratio comparisons, Tyson Fury sold 5,000 tickets against Tom Schwartz. 5,000 tickets. On the other hand, Crawford, he sells 12,000 to 17,000 nearly every time he fights. When it comes to the tickets he sells in Omaha and New York, it don't matter where he fights. He always do good numbers. He always sell more than 5K. I mean, Tyson Fury against Wilder, he did 3K. He sold 3,000 tickets. Ridiculous. But Bob Arum will come out and say that he's losing money on Terence Crawford, the guy who's making him banks. On the other hand, he will say Tyson Fury is a superman. He's the savior of the sport. When he lost all the money on Tyson Fury, I don't hear him say, oh, man, I'm losing so much money on Tyson Fury. He's not promotable. Regardless of what I do, I just can't sell the man. And after the man cheated, he didn't messed up his reputation because now I can't really sell him to the fans. I can't sell him to the public. But he will criticize Terence Crawford, who making him banks, and praise Tyson Fury, who got an 80 million contract with ESPN for like 3-4 fights. On the other hand, Crawford, he gets nowhere near that type of contract, even though he got so many mega fights on the horizon against guys like Errol Spence. Against anybody at the welterweight division is a big fight, right? I mean, the fight of the decade alone with Errol Spence should give him a contract like that, similar to Tyson Fury's. But just to show you how much they don't really appreciate Crawford because he's a fighter on the coincidentalist. So what are we even talking about? Bob Arum over here keep shitting on his own fighter instead of promoting him. But he obviously doing so because he realized he might lose Crawford to PBC. So he's like, you know what? I think he's too old to realize that he did this tactic too soon. Now that he did it, that kind of woke up Crawford like, damn, he ain't even loyal. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, he doing me like he did Floyd Mayweather. I'm telling you, this is like Floyd Mayweather 2.0. So what's your take on that comparison?
I mean, it just don't make no sense to me simply for the fact that you got Crawford. Like, I was looking at Crawford's last couple of fights against Kavalasik, against Brook in terms of numbers. And they shocked me, the amount of people that actually watch Crawford. And then I'm looking at Lomachenko's numbers, I'm looking at Tyson Fury's numbers, and those guys aren't competing against them. And the thing I'm also thinking about is you got Tyson Fury here who has who's looked at before for potentially cheating using drugs, and then you got him recently, as we've all seen, have something in his gloves or whatever in order to cheat and win against Deontay Wilder. You got Lomachenko here who just lost to Teofimo Lopez, and even though he was a huge favorite in that fight, but you got Terence Bud Crawford. While the whole boxing world is crumbling, this man is being extremely consistent on an 8 KO knockout streak. KO, right. Every single fight he has. And yet, this is the man you're the least loyal to when he's consistent, when he's legitimate, when he's giving you views, he's giving you wins. Because as we all know, the more you win, the more you get paid because people want to see you fight. People don't want to see people who lose like Lomachenko or people who cheat like Tyson Fury. That's why people are looking at Terence Crawford and saying, I want to see him against Spence. That's the fight that everybody wants to see. But you have Bob Arum saying that, oh, I'm losing money on him. I don't give a shit if I lose him. If he goes to PBC, it is what it is. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, why is Terence Crawford getting all this disrespect when you never said this about Lomachenko? When you never, even though he like Lomachenko is not the best promoter, and you got Tyson Fury here who has all these allegations and things and accusations against him. Like, why is it that the cleanest fighter you have, the best fighter you have, the arguably #1 fighter in the world, you treat like shit? Like, I don't get that. This man,
and you brought up a great point.
Gives you the most respect.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point. Crawford produced in the ring with his results. Man, his last fight, he scored a viral knockout that was trending on YouTube and on Twitter and everywhere. This man produced not just to his pound-for-pound status, but even in the ring, as far as always coming off with a knockout victory. And he ain't just pound-for-pound #1. He's pound-for-pound one of the hardest punchers in the world. So instead of Bob Arum praising the man like, damn, man, this man's shocking me every time, he produced in the ring just as much as he produced on ESPN when it comes to the viewership. Why is Crawford doing the highest numbers on ESPN? Why is he doing more numbers than Lomachenko? Because at the end of the day, real recognize real. People want to see the real talent, which is Crawford, and Bob Arum want to shit on him instead. He treating Crawford like he treated Rigondeaux, like he treated Floyd, like he treated Pacquiao. Once Pacquiao chose to leave him, once Floyd chose to leave him. And we see this pairing. Oscar De La Hoya did it. Floyd did it. Mikey did it. Ruiz did it. And now Crawford are looking to do the same. So Bob Arum is getting too old to realize that he's saying some, outrageous stuff. And in the social media era, in which whatever you say, it could be used against you, nearly like it is in the court of law, because at the end of the day, the worst weapon in the world is a microphone and a camera. And Bob Arum is saying some crazy shit right now. Excuse my language. Yeah. So, that's definitely not helping his case.
Real about it.
Bob Arum had me bugging, man. He said, man, listen, I don't care about Crawford. After the Errol Spence fight, he could leave to PBC after he beat Errol Spence. It's like, man, you think Al Haymon, the smartest boxing businessman in the game, is going to make the fight happen now after he hearing your drama? And it's public news, it's public knowledge at this point that Crawford contract is nearly up. So if I know it, if I put 1 and 1 and 2 together, you think Al Haymon is not going to be able to put 1 million and 2 million together and make Errol Spence versus Crawford happen on PBC alone to keep all the money in-house? I know you know better.
The thing is, Bob Arum always talking about Tyson Fury, he's a Superman, he's this. What people don't remember is that before that fight even happened with Deontay Wilder, even though that was a big fight, what people don't remember is that Bob Arum was saying, oh, these numbers are going to reach Pacquiao Mayweather numbers. And when that people thought that was outrageous, he said, oh, this is going to at least hit 2 million. And when that didn't happen, he said it at least has to hit 1.2 million. Yeah. And it barely reached that margin.
Right.
So and everybody and I heard that fight lost money. The biggest fight, one of the biggest fights in 2020. That fight, I heard that fight lost money. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, this is the biggest fight this man had. You promoted the living crap out of this fight, and yet I'm hearing that Terence Crawford's losing you money when you just lost money on a huge pay-per-view that you spent millions in order to create. Yet everybody is shouting Spence versus Crawford.
Yep, great point.
That doesn't make any sense.
Great point, because Bob Arum was banking on making his money back from the Wilder fight because he lost money on the fights prior to that, from the Wilder fight to the Tom Schwartz fight. Remember, he had to give tickets away. He gave thousands of tickets away. Tyson Fury did poor numbers on ESPN, so he definitely lost money on that fight, paying Tyson Fury $12 million for the Tom Schwartz fight when he pulled in poor numbers. He was banking on making his money back from the Wilder fight. And then when that didn't happen, I know now I got to make my money back from the trilogy fight. But then Tyson Fury trying to fight Kabayli instead. It's like, how you going to make your money back off Kabayli? You're going to lose more money off Kabayli. then make your money, because the Wilder fight definitely gonna do some serious numbers now after all these allegations. But a Kabali fight is gonna do no numbers at all. I mean, people already kind of really tight with that Wilder situation alone that we can't get a trilogy. But that's just to show you the double standards and the contradictions. Every other breath is a contradiction by Bob Arum. You know what I mean? So
hold it. Hold it. You're not that pretty. I'm a bad man. Wait. I still got the world. I still got the world. I still got the world.
I bear witness, there's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the Bungle fight. Thanking you.
They call me the problem, but you could call me the can man, because anybody can get it. Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can get it.